Namaste, my name is Seema, an intern of Shastranga Internship offered by Nupura Primary IKS Center under the guidance of Principal Investigator Dr Manorama B N. As part of this internship, I shall be talking about my understanding on Nritta Hastas of Nāṭyaśāstra in this video. I have referred Natyashastra of Bharatamuni with Abhinava Bharati commentary by R.S. Nagar, Sangita ratnakara of Shangadeva edited by Subhramanya Shastri, and Yakshamargamukura of Dr Manorama B N to understand the Nritta Hastas and present in this video. I have also referred to the YouTube video of Dr Padma Subramaniam on the Nritta Hastas of Nāṭyaśāstra. Nritta Hastas are the movement of the hands which are extensively used in the pure dance or Nritta. Unlike the Abhinaya Hastas, Nritta Hastas do not have a specific meaning or are not used in communication, but they are used to enhance the beauty of the pure dance. As per the Shastranga Internship class oral documentation, it can be noted that Sangita ratnakara is the precursor for Bahu and Hasta Vartanas. In this context, Vartana means behavior or action or movement. Yakshamargamukura mentions that Vartana is equivalent to the Rechakas of Natyashastra and elucidates that Rechakas are delicate yet distinct movement of the Angopangas which enhances the beauty of Nritta. Before understanding the Nritta Hastas, it is important to understand the hasta karanas or the movement of the wrist based on the direction in which the fingers are turned. And the shloka in Natyashastra for the same is Apaveshtitamekam syat udveshtitam param vyavartitam tritiyantu chaturtham parivartitam. After having an understanding of the hasta karanas, let us move on to the Nritta Hastas. The Viniyogas that I shall be explaining for the Nritta Hasta is just to point out the practical application of the Nritta Hasta. The first Nritta Hasta is Chaturasra. The shloka for this is Vakshasoshtangulastautu pranmukhau khatakamukhau samanakurpara sautu chaturasrau prakirtitau. The word Chaturasra means a quadrilateral. According to the Lakshana, 8 inches away from the chest, when the shoulder and the elbow are symmetric to each other with the Kataka mukha held in the hand, we obtain Chaturasra Nritta Hasta. Abhinava Bharati adds to this Lakshana that 8 inches gap has to be maintained between both the hastas and the elbow and the shoulders have to be symmetric and should be of the same level like that of a balance, and the explanation he gives for pranmukha kataka mukha is that the kataka mukha should not face the doer or the dancer. Yakshamargamukura mentions 2 ways of holding the Chaturasra, that is the Kataka mukha held in the Chaturasra position without the Kataka mukha facing the doer. Number 1 is where the Kataka mukha is standing upright on the wrist in this fashion, and the second way is when the Kataka mukha is held wherein the Kataka mukha is perpendicular to the wrist. Bharata's Lakshana for Chaturasra does not have movement, but as Chaturasra being a Nritta Hasta, it is important to have movement in this Nritta Hasta. We can achieve the movement, we can bring in the movement in Chaturasra by using the hasta karanas. Abhinava Bharati mentions the use of Udveshtita hasta karana to bring in movement to the Chaturasra Nritta Hasta. So as per Udveshtita, the hasta, the Kataka mukha seems to be facing the doer initially, but in the end the Kataka mukha is facing each other. So both the Kataka mukhas are facing each other. Dr. Padma Subramaniam also makes use of the Udveshtita. Another way of doing Chaturasra using the hasta karana without the hasta pointing towards the doer is using the apaveshtita hasta karana pointed out by Yakshamargamukura. So using the apaveshtita hasta karana, we can bring in the movement to the Chaturasra Nritta Hasta without the Kataka mukha facing the doer or the dancer. Yakshamargamukura also mentions that the starting of Bharatanatyam or Kuchipudi makes use of the Chaturasra Nritta Hasta with the Kataka mukha of Abhinaya Dharpana. Coming to the Kataka mukha which is used currently in Bharatanatyam, the Kataka mukha of Natyashastra is from the Kapitta Abhinaya Hasta. When the little finger and the ring finger are stretched out, then we obtain the Kataka mukha of Natyashastra. As per Abhinaya Darpana, from the Kapitta, if the middle finger and the thumb are joined at the tips, and on this if the index finger is held, then we obtain the Kataka mukha of Abhinaya Darpana. This resembles the hook of a bangle or a necklace, and hence the word Kataka mukha is suitable for this is mentioned in Yakshamargamukura. The current Kataka mukha which we use in Bharatanatyam is a variation of the Kataka mukha of Abhinaya Darpana in which the little finger and the ring finger are stretched out and are held in this fashion. A detailed explanation of the Kataka mukha of the Natyashastra, Abhinaya Darpana and other treatises has been dealt in Yakshamargamukura. A Viniyoga for Chaturasra Nritta Hasta can be seen in the Tadditta Adavu. So, Tad-dit-ta, Tad-dit-ta. Here we are making use of the Apaveshtita Hastakarana with the Kataka mukha variation of Abhinaya Darpana. Moving on to the next Nritta Hasta, Tala Vrinta. The shloka for this is Hamsa Paksha Kritau Hastau Vyavrittau Tala Vrintakau Udvrutta Viti Vigneya Vathava Tala Vrintakau. When Hamsa Paksha Hasta, held in the hand, is moved in the Vyavritta Hastakarana, then we obtain the Tala Vrinta. So Udvrita is also known as Tala Vrinta. The meaning of Tala Vrinta is palm leaf fan. According to Bharata, the Hamsa Paksha has to be held in the hand and Vyavritta Hastakarana needs to be employed in this Nritta Hasta. Then we obtain the Udvrita Nritta Hasta or the Tala Vrinta Nritta Hasta. This is also called as Tala Vrinta. Tala Vrinta basically means palm leaf fan, as this movement resembles like we are fanning ourselves. The other name for Udvrita is Tala Vrinta. According to Abhinavagupta, after the Chaturasra Nritta Hasta, Hamsa Paksha has to be held in both the hands. And one hand has to be, the palm has to be facing upwards, and in the other hand the palm has to be facing downwards, and there has to be rotation of both the hands is what Abhinava Bharati says. A similar explanation for Udvrita is given in Sangita ratnakara as well, where it says that the alternate rotation of the palms have to happen near the chest. Viniyoga for Tala Vrinta can be seen in the variation of Did-dit-tai Adavu. So, Did-dit-tai, Did-dit-tai. Moving on, next is Talamukha. Chaturasra sthitau hastau hamsa paksha kritau tatha Tiryak sthitau chabhimukhau gneyau talamukha viti. In the Chaturasra, when Hamsa Paksha is held and the hands are abhimukha, that they are facing each other and are slightly oblique, then we obtain the Talamukha. Abhinava Bharati says that the raising Udrita in the hands have to be shown in such a way that it resembles the playing of Mridanga. So this is about Talamukha. Talamukha is frequently seen in the Tarana presentation of a Kathak performance. It is generally seen while we portray the playing of Mridanga. Next, I shall be talking about Swastika and Viprakirana Nritta Hastas. As per Yakshamargamukura, without Swastika we cannot do the Viprakirana. So there is this interdependency between these two Nritta Hastas. I shall be following the same concept and clubbing these two Nritta Hastas together and will be explaining. The shlokas for these two are Taveva Manibandhante Swastika Kriti Samsthitau Swastika Viti Vikhyatau Vichyutau Viprakirnakau. When the hands are crossed at the wrist or Manibandha, then we obtain the Swastika Nritta Hasta. And when they are freed from the crossing over of the wrist, then we obtain the Viprakirana. Swastika means when the Hamsa Paksha is crossed over near the wrist, we obtain the Swastika Nritta Hasta. Swastika means scissor, and Viprakirana is when the hands are moved away from and are freed from the crossing over at the wrist, then we obtain the Viprakirana. Viprakirana means scattered. So we can obtain Viprakirana in two ways as per Yakshamargamukura. From Swastika, when we free the hands while the palms are facing upwards, this is one way of doing Viprakirana. The second way is when the Viprakirana is done while the palms are facing downwards. According to Sangita ratnakara, there are four ways of doing Viprakirana based on the direction in which the fingers are pointed to. One is when the fingers are pointed upwards, when the fingers are pointed downwards, when the fingers are outwards and the fingers are pointing inwards. These are the four ways of doing Viprakirana in Sangita ratnakara. Swastika Viprakirana can be observed in the 8th Natadavu. Tayyum datta tayyum tam, tayyum datta tayyum tam. So the Swastika and Viprakirana can be observed here. Swastika and Viprakirana can also be noticed in folk forms. Arala and Kataka is the next Nritta Hasta. The shloka for this is Alapallava mamsthanau urdhvasau padmakoshakau Arala Katakakhyau chapyarala Katakamukhau Tathaiva manibandhante hyaralau vichyuta ubhau Gneyau prayoktrubhir nityamarala Katakaviti. With the Alapallava hasta raised and then brought into Padma Kosha, after this the Arala and Kataka mukha are to be held, and also from the wrist the Arala and Kataka mukha has to be separated. This is the shloka for Arala Kataka mukha. We can understand that multiple ways of doing Arala Kataka mukha has been prescribed here. According to Abhinava Bharati, one way is when the swastika of the Hamsa Paksha is made as the Alapallava facing upwards with the Vyavartita Parivartita Hasta Karna, it is brought down as Padma Kosha. From here, the Arala and Kataka mukha are separated and brought into Chaturasra. This is one way. The second way is with the Arala rotating over the wrist, alternating with the Kataka mukha and brought separated from the alternating on the wrist to the Chaturasra, then we obtain the Arala Kataka mukha. We can also notice that the Arala and Kataka mukha can be crossed over the wrist in Swastika, either in this way, where the Kataka mukha is standing upon the Arala near the wrist, or when the Kataka mukha is perpendicular to the Arala over the wrist. So the two ways of doing Arala Kataka mukha is one when the Alapadma is brought down as Padma Kosha, and then the Arala and Kataka mukha are separated. The second one is with the Arala Vartana, or the rotation of the Arala near the wrist, alternating with the Kataka mukha are separated. So these are the two ways of doing Arala Kataka mukha. This is a common movement seen in Kathak, especially when they start the performance. They do this and they bow down to the earth, and then they take the position for the Kathak performance. A similar point is brought out in the YouTube video of Dr. Padma Subhramanyam while she explains the Arala Kataka mukha. Next is Avidha Vakra or Avidha Vaktra. Bhujam Sakurpara Graistu Kutilavartitau Karo Paranmukhatala Vidhau Gneya Vavidha Vakrakau. When the shoulders and the elbow are pointed outwards and are held in a crooked fashion, with the hands rotating in a feeble way, and the palms are facing downwards and are away from each other, then we obtain the Avidha Vaktra. Abhinava Bharati says that the movement of the hand in Avidha Vaktra, the swift movement should resemble the handle of a plow. And Avidha is also a Bahu Veda, wherein the Bahu is coming towards the closer to the body. So the Avidha Vaktra should use the Vyavartita hasta karana is also mentioned by Abhinava Bharati. So Avidha Vaktra is done in this way. Yakshamargamukura mentions a very interesting fact that the Rangakramana Adavu of Bharatanatyam, we can observe the Avidha Vaktra Nritta Hasta movement. This can be understood in the following way. So in the Rangakramana Adavu, ta, tai, tai, ta, thit, tai, tai, ta. So here we can see that the elbow and the shoulders are pointed outwards, with the palms alternating between Kataka mukha and Alapadma hasta, and from Kataka mukha to Alapadma, when there is a change in the hasta, we can notice the Vyavartita hasta karana, which is mentioned by Abhinava Bharati, and from the Alapadma to Kataka mukha, the palm is facing downwards. And with this movement, the Bahu is also Avidha, that is coming closer to the body, and the palms are also in the opposite directions. And hence this fits into the Lakshana of Avidha Vaktra Nritta Hasta movement. This can also be noticed in folk dance forms where they bend backwards using this hand movement. Next is Suchiasya or Suchi mukha. Hastau tu sarpa shirasau madhyamangushtakau yada tiryak prasaritasyau cha tada Suchi mukhau smrita. Sarpa shirshau yada hastau bhavetam swastikasthitau madhya prasaritanguštau gneyau Suchi mukha tada. So we can understand that there are two ways of doing Suchi mukha. One is when the Sarpashira is held in the hand and the thumb and the middle finger are touching each other, and the hand is moving obliquely. Then we obtain the Suchi mukha is the first two lines. The next two lines of the shloka tells that when the Sarpashira is crossed over at Manibandha with the swastika, then we get the Suchi mukha, where the thumb is stretched along with the middle finger. So there are two versions of Suchi mukha. Abhinava Bharati says that from the Chaturasra position, when the Sarpashira is held in both the hands and the tips of the thumb and the middle finger are touched with the fingers pointing obliquely and pointing forward along with the shoulders pointing forward, we obtain the Suchi mukha or Suchyasya. Suchi mukha, the meaning of Suchi mukha is the pointed end of a needle. So hence the movement can be considered to be this way. Abhinava Bharati also mentions that the base of the middle finger is touched by the thumb and are crossed at the wrist for swastika for the Suchyasya. This is another way of doing Suchyasya. Along with what Natyashastra has said, Abhinava Bharati also gives information on this. Sangita ratnakara mentions doing the Suchyasya using the hasta karanas Vyavrita and Parivartita. So doing the Vyavrita hasta karana, we can obtain Suchyasya in the following way. And with the Parivartita hasta karana, so these are the ways of doing Suchi mukha. Viniyoga for Suchyasya as per Yakshamargamukura is to show look there or distance in Yakshagana. Next, two Nritta Hastas are Recita and Recita. Again, as per Yakshamargamukura, these two hastas are dependent on each other, hence I shall be explaining them together. The shloka for these two are Recitau chapi vigneyau hamsa pakshau dhrutau bhramau prasarito Uttana talau recitaviti sangitau chaturastro bhave dvamaha savya hastascha recitaha Vigneyau Nritta Tatvagnair Recita Sangitau. When the Hamsa Paksha in the hands are swiftly rotated and stretched with the palm facing upwards, then we obtain the Recita Nritta Hasta. With the same Recita Nritta Hasta, with the left hand in the Chaturasra and right hand doing the Recita, we obtain the Recita. For Abhinava Bharati, when the Hamsa Paksha is held in the hand and swiftly rotated and stretched with the palm facing upwards, we obtain the Recita Nritta Hasta, and Ardha Recita is obtained while the left hand holds the Kataka mukha in the Chaturasra and the right hand is doing the Recita Nritta Hasta. For Recita, Sangita Ratnakara gives three different versions. Number one, where the hands are stretched outwards with the palm facing upwards. Second one is when the hands are rotated swiftly. And the third one is a combination of these two. And the Viniyoga that is given for this is Narasimha. So we can understand that the third version resembles to what Abhinava Bharati says for Recita. Recita movement can be seen in Garba or Dandiya dance. So this movement can be observed. Ardha Recita can be observed in Kathak movements. Next is Uttana Vanchita. Anchitau kurparasau tu tripatakau karau krutau kinchit tiriyagata vetau smrita Uttana Vanchitau. With the elbows and shoulders raised up and tripataka in both the hands are held in a slightly oblique fashion, then we obtain the Uttana Vanchita. Anchita is a bahu beda where the elbow is raised and the hands are near the face. According to Abhinava Bharati, the hands have to be held slightly oblique with the Tripataka, and it has to be gently raised one after the other, and they have to be facing each other. This is the Uttana Vanchita. And according to Sangita ratnakara, the shoulders have to be a little brought down while doing the Uttana Vanchita, and they need to be also in motion while we do Uttana Vanchita. So as per Sangita ratnakara, the Uttana Vanchita can be done in this way. So the Viniyoga for this is when we show beautiful cheeks or beautiful eyebrows, then we use this movement. Next we come to the Pallava and Nritta Hasta. Manibandhana muktau tu patakau pallavau smritau. The Lakshana for Pallava is the Pataka Hasta, which is free from the clutches of the Manibandha or wrist. With Pataka in hand, when the Bahu is raised up, doing the Vyavartita Hasta Karana, and immediately with the Parivartita Hasta Karana, when the Pataka is crossed at Swastika, we obtain the Pallava and Nritta Hasta. Abhinava Bharati also mentions that in place of Pallava, Shitila Pallava or Tripataka can also be used. So, Shitila Pallava or Tripataka, Pallava can be done in this way. According to Sangita ratnakara, Padma Kosha can also be held loosely in the Manibandha and are placed near the sides of the body. So, according to Sangita ratnakara, the Pallava is this. A Viniyoga for Pallava is the fruit-bearing branches of a tree, as mentioned in Abhinaya Darpana and Bharatarnava. This is mentioned in Yakshamargamukura. Next, I shall be talking about Nitamba and Kesha Bandha Nritta Hasta. Again, as per Yakshamargamukura, Nitamba and Kesha Bandha movements are similar to each other, and these two are grouped together in Yakshamargamukura. I shall be following the same concept and will be explaining here. Bahu Shirshad Vinishkrantau Nitamba Viprakirana Kesha Deshad Vinishkrantau Pariparshvottitau Yada Vigneyau Keshabandhau tu Karavacharya Sammatau. Movement of the hands outward from the shoulder to the Nitamba region is the Nitamba Nritta Hasta. Movement of the hands near the sides of the head, near the shoulder region, is the Keshabandha Nritta Hasta. Abhinava Bharati says that the Pataka Hasta from the shoulder has to be rotated and brought near the Nitamba and should also have a movement near the Nitamba, is what Abhinava Bharati says for Nitamba Nritta Hasta. And for the Keshabandha Nritta Hasta, it has a similar movement to the Nitamba Nritta Hasta, but the hands have to be in motion near the side of the head, near the hair. This movement should resemble as if to set the hair right or to correct the hair. So, Keshabandha Nritta Hasta can be done in this way. Nitamba can be seen in Kathak. Keshabandha is predominantly seen in Bihu dance form. We can see two variations of Keshabandha. One is with both the hands and one is with only one hand near the hair. Next, I shall be explaining Lata and Karyhasta together, as I shall be following Yakshamargamukura, which says that The Karyhasta is dependent on the Lata hasta. So with the same format, the shloka for Lata and Karyhasta is Tiryak prasaritau chaiva parshva samsthau tathaiva cha lathakyau cha karaugneyo drittabhinayanam prati samunnato lata hastah parshva tvarshva vilolitah tripatako parah karne karyhastah prakirtitah. When the hands are moving freely and obliquely, then we obtain the Lata hasta. And in the same Lata hasta, when one hand is doing the Lata hasta and the other one is raised and it has tripataka near the ear, then we obtain the Karyhasta. As the word Lata means creeper, the movement of the arms have to be tender and graceful like that of a creeper. As per Abhinava Bharati, the hands have to be kept near the Nitamba and moved gracefully. In place of pataka, tripataka can also be held in the hand, is what Abhinava Bharati says to obtain the movement of this Nritta Hasta. And in the same Lata hasta, when one hand is doing the Lata hasta and the other one is raised and it has tripataka near the ear, then we obtain the Karyhasta. Lata hasta can be observed in the Kulkanadai of Kuchipudi or Bharatanatyam. And for Karyhasta, it is elephant, as the word suggests, it is elephant. We can also denote elephant playing in water when we raise the hand upwards. So raising the hand upwards is also mentioned in Abhinava Bharati, so we can show the elephant playing in water. A Viniyoga for Karyhasta can be seen in Kuchipudi. Paksa and Pradyutaka. I shall be explaining these two Nritta Hastas together because as Yakshamargamukura says that both the Nritta Hastas are dependent on the position on which, that is the waist. It is dependent on the position of the Hastas near the waist and it is clubbed together. In the same concept, I shall be going ahead with the shloka for these two Nritta Hastas. Kati Shirsha Nivishtagrau Tripatakau Yadakarau Pakshavanchitakau Hastau Tadagneyau Prayoktribihi Tavevatu Paravrittau Paksha Pradyutakau Smritau. When Tripataka Hasta is held on the top portion of the waist, then we obtain the Pakshavanchita. At the same time, when we turn the palm outwards, where the palm is facing outwards on both the sides of the waist and are in opposite direction to each other, then we obtain the Paksha Pradyutaka Nritta Hasta. Paksha Vanchita and Paksha Pradyutaka are useful in the execution of Chari as mentioned in Yakshamargamukura. Yakshamargamukura also mentions that Paksha Pradyutaka can be seen in the Tattadgu of Bharatanatyam. Paksha Pradyutaka is also observed in Odissi. Next is Garuda Paksha Nritta Hasta. Adho Mukha Tala Vidhau Gneya Garuda Pakshakau. When the tala or the palm is facing downwards and it has Avidha, that is the brisk raising of the arms, then we obtain the Garuda Paksha Nritta Hasta. Abhinava Bharati says that pataka or tripataka in the hand should be held near the Nitamba and facing downwards, should be raised up and down like that of the wings of Garuda, as the name suggests, Garuda Paksha. So when we hold the pataka near the Nitamba facing downwards and is raised up and down like that of the wings of Garuda, we obtain Garuda Paksha Nritta Hasta. Tripataka can also be used as mentioned in Abhinava Bharati. According to Sangita ratnakara, the elbow has to be raised and the hands have to be near the waist and should be stretched up and down with arms being straight. This resembles to what Abhinava Bharati has said. Garuda Paksha movement can be observed in Odissi. Next and Nritta Hasta that I shall be talking about is Danda Paksha. Hamsa Paksha Kritau Hastau Vyavritta Parivartitau Tatha Prasarita Bujhau Danda Paksha Miti Smritau. When Hamsa Paksha is held in the hand and the Vyavartita Parivartita Hasta karana is used along with the movement of the Bhuja, then we obtain the Danda Paksha Nritta Hasta. Abhinava Bharati says that one hand should do the Vyavartita Hasta karana and move from one side of the chest to the other side of the chest, and the other hand should do the Parivartita Hasta karana and should be raised near the head. And both these movements have to be done simultaneously and should be done by both the hands alternatively, is what Abhinava Bharati says. Sangita Ratnakara does not mention about the Hasta karanas, but it says that one hand has to be rotated gracefully and moved to the other side of the chest, and the other hand should be raised and should do the Lalita hasta. So the Sangita Ratnakara is the Lakshana is similar to what Abhinava Bharati says. Danda Paksha is clearly observed in Bhangra. It can also be seen in Bhramari of Bharatanatyam. Next, I shall be talking about Urdhva Mandali and Pashva Mandali. As per Yakshamargamukura, the movement of these two Nritta Hastas are similar and are hence clubbed together. I shall also be explaining them together. The shloka for this is Urdhva Mandalinau Hastau Urdhva Desha Vivartanat Taveva Pashva Vinyastau Pashva Mandalinau Smritau. The Lakshana says that movement of the hands in the upper region is Urdhva Mandali, and if the same movement is done in the sides, then we obtain Pashva Mandali. Abhinava Bharati says that doing the Vyavartita Hasta karana, if the hands are raised up till the forehead level, making a circular motion, and along with this, the arms have to be raised up while doing this motion, then we obtain the Urdhva Mandali. So as per Abhinava Bharati's explanation, we get Urdhva Mandali in the following way. Doing the Vyavartita Hasta karana and doing a circular motion, the hands are moved up till the forehead level and the arms are also raised up while doing this movement. From here on, in the Lakshana, the shloka for Pashva Mandali begins, and this is called as Chakravartanika in Abhinava Bharati. Same is the opinion of Sangita Ratnakara. Chakravartanika is the circular movements of the hand near the forehead level. The word Chakravartanika means the rotation of the wheel, and hence the movement for Chakravartanika should resemble the rotation of the wheel. Chakravartanika movement can be seen in Kathak. Urdhva Mandali Viniyoga can be observed in Kathak. So Urdhva Mandali and then the hands are coming out. Coming to Pashva Mandali, the Lakshana says that doing the same movement as that of Urdhva Mandali but towards the sides, then we obtain Pashva Mandali. Abhinava Bharati says that doing the same movement as that of Urdhva Mandali towards the sides, but the pataka should face each other. So as per Abhinava Bharati's explanation, we get Pashva Mandali in the following way. Abhinava Bharati also mentions another way of doing Parshva Mandali, which involves the brisk movement of the Bahu in the sides, where the Bahus are Avidha, that is coming towards the body. Hence, another way of doing Parshva Mandali as per Abhinava Bharati is this. On the other hand, Sangita ratnakara mentions the usage of Avidha Bahu along with the Apaveshtita hasta as mentioned in the Kalinatha commentary. So, along with the movement of the arms, the Bahu, we can make use of the Apaveshtita hasta is what Kalinatha says, and calls this as the Kakshavartanika. Kaksha means armpit, and hence Kakshavartanika can be understood as the action of armpit. Parshva Mandali can be seen in Odissi. The Kakshavartanika can be observed in flamenco. So the flamenco dancer picks up her skirt, and with the Apaveshtita Hastakarana and Avidha Bahu, she tries to bring the skirt inwards. So this is about Urdhva Mandali and Parshva Mandali. Next is Uro Mandali. Udveshtitau bhavedekau dvitiyaschapaveshtitah Bhramitau urasah sthane Hiro Mandali nau smritau. The Lakshana means one hand doing the Udveshtita Hastakarana and the other doing the Apaveshtita Hastakarana. Through this, bringing in a movement, a rotation in the hastas, in the chest level, we obtain Uro Mandali. As per Abhinava Bharati, the hastas doing the Udveshtita and Apaveshtita Hastakarana can be stretched to the Parshva, that is the side, and when the stretched hand is doing the Apaveshtita and brought back, the other should follow, that is should go out, and hence a circular motion can be brought into this Nritta Hasta. Another way of doing Uro Mandali is doing the Udveshtita and Apaveshtita Hastakaranas in the hands in the chest level. So first one is where we can stretch the hand up till the sides. The second one is doing in the chest level alone. Abhinava Bharati also mentions that just like Urdhva Mandali and Parshva Mandali, we can make use of the Hamsa Paksha Hasta in Uro Mandali as well. Sangita ratnakara calls this movement as Uro Vartanika. Uras means the chest, and Uro Vartanika can be understood as the movement of the hands near the chest. And Sangita ratnakara mentions the usage of Pataka Hasta for this movement. So we can use Hamsa Paksha or Pataka. Uro Mandali can be observed in the basic steps of Yakshagana mentioned in Yakshamargamukura. Next is Urah Parshvardha Mandala or Urah Parshva Mandala. The shloka for this is Alapallava Karala Urordhva Brahmana Kramat Parshvavartascha Vigneya Urah Parshvardha Mandalo. As per Abhinava Bharati, when one hand doing the Vyavartita Hastakarana raises up holding the Alapallava Hasta, the arms are also spread in the sideways, and at the same time the other hand do with the Arala Hasta doing the Udveshtita Hastakarana should also follow the same movement. In this way, there is this circular motion that is happening between these two hastas, while the Alapallava is held using the Vyavartita and the Arala is held doing the Udveshtita. There is this semicircular movement in the chest level, starting from the chest level, and also there is rotation in the sides. Sangita ratnakara mentions the one hand going towards the side making a rotation and the other starting from the half portion of the chest as Ardha Mandala Vartana, which is close to the Parshva Mandala. Ardha Mandala Vartana can be understood as a semicircular motion. Pura Parshva Mandala can be observed in Kathak. Next is Mushtika Swastika. Hastau tu manibandhante kunchita vanchitau yada khatakakhyau tu tau syatam mushtika swastikau tada, which means the hastas making the anchita, that is the upward movements, and kunchita, that is the downward movement, with the manibandha, that is the wrist, and making use of the Kataka hasta, we obtain Mushtika Swastika. Abhinava Bharati says that the term Mushtika Swastika might be used in this scenario could be because when the mushti is crossed over at the manibandha forming a swastika, and hence Mushtika Swastika is the name given to this Nritta Hasta. It also throws light on the traditional usage of the mushti and kataka mukha in this Nritta Hasta. But apart from these, there can also be usage of kapitta, shikara and mushti while forming the swastika is also mentioned in Abhinava Bharati. So as per the Lakshana, with the Mushtika Swastika, Arala has to be moving downwards, Kunchita, and at the same time Alapallava is moving upwards, that is Anchita. And when the Arala is coming Anchita, Alapallava is going Kunchita. So these Anchita Kunchita movements have to be done and ended with Kataka Mukha in the Swastika. Sangita ratnakara explains this movement in a different way. It says that in the Anchita, the Apaveshtita and Udveshita hasta karanas have to be employed in the Mushtika Swastika. So the Apaveshtita, the right hand is doing the Apaveshtita and then Udveshtita. Apaveshtita and Udveshtita, and has to be ended in Kataka Mukha Swastika is what Sangita Ratnakara says. A Viniyoga for Mushtika Swastika as per Yakshamargamukura can be understood as to free oneself from the clutches of a handcuff, or when the hands are tied when we try to free our hands. Next is Nalini Padma Kosha. Padma Koshau yada hastau vyavritta parivartitau Nalini Padma Koshau tu tadagneyo prayoktribihi. The Lakshana means having Padma Kosha hasta in the hand and using the Vyavritta and Parivartita hasta karana, we obtain Nalini Padma Kosha. Abhinava Bharati explains that holding the Padma Kosha in both the hands and facing each other, doing the Vyavartita and Parivartita hasta karana, we obtain Nalini Padma Kosha. So as per Abhinava Bharati, with Padma Kosha in both the hands facing each other, doing the Vyavartita Parivartita, we obtain Nalini Padma Kosha. Abhinava Bharati also mentions another way of doing Nalini Padma Kosha. From the Mushtika Swastika, after doing the Vyavartita, while doing the Parivartita, when the palms are facing outwards and are opposite to each other, Padma Kosha has to be held and ended in this way. Sangita Ratnakara prescribes multiple ways to do Nalini Padma Kosha. First one being from the Alapallava Swastika, after doing the Vyavartita and while doing the Parivartita, when the palms are facing outwards and are opposite to each other, Padma Kosha has to be held. So this is one way of doing Nalini Padma Kosha as per Sangita Ratnakara. The second one is doing the Nalini Padma Kosha movement by moving the hand from the shoulder level to the knee level. So this is the second one. This is a common movement which we can observe in Kathak. The third way of doing Nalini Padma Kosha as per Sangita Ratnakara is to traverse this hand movement in the vicinity of the shoulder and the sides of the breast. So these are the multiple ways of doing Nalini Padma Kosha as per Sangita Ratnakara. Nalini Padma Kosha can be evidently observed in the portrayal of blooming of a flower. Next, I shall be talking about Alapallava and Ulbana, together known as Ulbana and Lalita. As per Yakshamargamukura, these Nritta Hastas are together explained because of the similarity in their movement. I shall be explaining them together as well. The Lakshana for these are Kara Udveshtita Grautu Pravidhaya Alapallavau Urdhva Prasarita Vidhau Kartavya Ulbana Viti Pallavau cha Shiro Deshe Sampraptau Lalita Smritau. The Lakshana means doing the Udveshtita Hasta when the Alapallava is raised and kept still. Avidha means kept still. We obtain the Ulbana Nritta Hasta, and holding the Pallava Hasta near the head region, we obtain Lalita Nritta Hasta. As Ulbana Nritta Hasta is similar and dependent on the Alapallava Nritta Hasta, Abhinava Bharati conjointly calls Alapallava and Ulbana as Ulbana. According to Abhinava Bharati, doing the Udveshtita Hastakarana while the hands are taken up and stopped near the shoulder level, then we obtain Alapallava Nritta Hasta. On the contrary, Sangita Ratnakara mentioned the usage of Vyavartita Hastakarana. So as per Sangita Ratnakara, Alapallava can be obtained this way. The way of doing Ulbana as per Natyashastra and Sangita Ratnakara is similar. As per Abhinava Bharati, from the Alapallava with the palms facing the shoulder, the fingers have to be shook to obtain Ulbana. The Viniyoga which Abhinava Bharati gives for Ulbana is to show the state of happiness of mind. Another Viniyoga which we can think of for this movement is to show the beauty or grandeur. A Viniyoga for Alapallava can be seen in folk dances. Now moving on to Lalita Nritta Hasta, Abhinava Bharati says that the four fingers in the palm have to be held together and the hands have to be raised up above the head. So this is Lalita as per Abhinava Bharati. This movement of the hand looks like the starting position of a ballet. Sangita Ratnakara mentions two ways of doing Lalita Nritta Hasta. Number one is to hold the Alapallava above the head. So holding the Alapallava above the head, this looks like holding a pot above the head. And the second one is when the Kataka mukha in both the hands are joined with the tips of the Kataka mukha and the hands are slowly and gracefully taken up above the head. So these are the two ways of doing Lalita as per Sangita Ratnakara. The popular way of doing Lalita as per Dr Padma Subhramanyam is holding the Suchi and Mushti in both the hands, where the Suchi is inside the Mushti and the arms are raised up above the head. The 30th and the last Nritta Hasta as per Natyashastra is Valita. The Lakshana for Valita is Kurpara Swastika Gatau Latakyo Valita Viti, which means the Lata Hasta are crossed over or a swastika is formed over the elbow with the Lata Hasta, then we obtain Valita Nritta Hasta. Abhinava Bharati says that the graceful Lata Hasta has to be crossed over at the elbow, forming a swastika at the elbow. to obtain Valita and Nritta Hasta, but as crossing over at the elbow is not convenient for a dancer, also not very aesthetically appealing for a viewer, crossing over at the Manibandha can be considered as per the depiction seen in Yakshamargamukura. Sangita Ratnakara mentions two ways of doing Valita and Nritta Hasta. Number one, the Mushtika Swastika held above the head has to be gracefully brought down. And the second one is when the Kataka mukha held in both the hands are joined over the tips, are brought from the head region, they are brought down and held gracefully while the back portion of the elbow is stretched. So the two ways of doing Valita as per Sangita Ratnakara are Mushtika Swastika being brought down and the Kataka mukha joined at the tips are brought down in such a way that the back portion of the elbow is stretched. The popular way of doing Valita as per Dr Padma Subhramanyam is the Suchi and Mushti, which are held above the head, are brought down gracefully. So this is the common way of doing Valita and Nritta Hasta. Valita and Nritta Hasta can be seen in Odissi. So in this movement, Valita is seen in the beginning and ends with Swastika of Alapallava. To conclude, these are the 13 Nritta Hastas as mentioned in Natyashastra. I have tried to explain the Lakshana along with the few of the Viniyogas that we can observe today, based on my understanding on the Nritta Hastas by reading Yakshamargamukura written by Dr Manorama B N to have a deeper understanding on these Nritta Hastas. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr Manorama B N, Principal Investigator, Nupura Brahmari, IKS Center, for giving me an opportunity to portray my understanding on the Nritta Hastas in the form of a video as part of the Shastraranga internship. I would also like to thank her for making me understand the nuances of these Nritta Hastas. Special thanks to Nritta S for helping me in understanding the Nritta Hastas. Sincere thanks to my mother, Srimati Nagaratna, and my friend Shashank for helping me in making this video. Namaste.